Welcome back to Stooks. Today I have something very special to share with you. It's a piece of memorabilia I've had for a while, and makes it special is it's from the playing days of a barrier breaker, first African American to play in an NFL football game in 1920. And well, I know some of you are probably thinking it's Fritz Pollard. Um, he was the second. And the item I have is from the playing days of this athlete. He was a great athlete, multi-sport athlete, played baseball in the Negro leagues and in other sports. I'll start off by showing you the item. This is a 1905 University of Minnesota Gopher yearbook, and the player is Bobby Marshall. Robert Wells Marshall was born March 12th, 1880 in Milwaukee. He was the grandson of slaves. He went to the University of Minnesota. He was the first black athlete at the university and also in the conference that would eventually be known as the Big Ten. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was an All-American in Minnesota. He also played pro baseball, hockey, and, of course, football in the NFL. He was also a boxer and a wrestler. And here's a picture of the 1904 Minnesota Gopher football team. See Bobby's in the third row. And they also have a biography of him in the yearbook. It's very brittle, so I took pictures as not to damage it any further. It's still being held together on the binding, but the spine has some damage, so I didn't want to continue to go through it and cause further damage. So in 1920, at the age of 40, Bobby was a lawyer and state grain commissioner in Minnesota. He was 6'2", 195 pounds. He played in the first NFL game, September 9th, 1926, Rock Island Independence versus the St. Paul Ideals. St. Paul was not an NFL team, but the Independents were the first NFL team to play a game, and Bobby was on that team. And he played end. And here's the lineup for that game. You can see Bobby Marshall listed as right end. The following week, Rock Island Independence played the Muncie Flyers in the first weekend of NFL action, and an NFL team versus an NFL team. The Dayton Flyers had played a game earlier that day, so that was officially the first NFL game versus NFL game. The Akron Pros, the team Fritz Pollard played for, also played that day, but they played the Wheeling Stogies, and Stogies were not an NFL team. But the following week, October 10th, the third week of the season, the Akron Pros played the Columbus Panhandlers, another NFL team. So in actuality, Bobby Marshall was the first African American to play for an NFL team and in an NFL game versus an NFL game. And it's, coming from Minnesota, Bobby had witnessed in the news that just a few months earlier, 3 African Americans had been lynched in Duluth, Minnesota. So it wasn't the friendliest of eras for an African American to be playing football, and he did put up with a lot of abuse from fans and throughout the league. And he played, for several years in the NFL. Not full seasons. But here's some of the teams he played for, and it played for the Rock Island Independents, Minneapolis Marines, and the Duluth Kellys. Here's a list of baseball teams that he played for up above: the Lemoore, North Dakota team, Minneapolis Colored Keystones, St. Paul Colored Gophers, the famous Chicago Giants of the Negro League fame, Twin City Gophers, and the All Nations team in 1923. And here's some pictures of Bobby on his baseball teams. Here's Bobby on the Minnesota Colored Keystones up in the back row. He's the only person in that row. And here's a picture of him with the St. Paul Colored Gophers. He's in the second row, far right. This is a magnificent image that I borrowed from the Facebook Negro League site. Someone had posted this, and I think it's just an awesome photo from the 19-teens. And there was African Americans that played in the NFL until 1933. And at that time, there became a gentleman's agreement among owners that they would not sign African American players. And one of the last ones to play was Ray Kemp of the Pittsburgh Pirates, later to become the Steelers. And instead of trying to come back in 1934, he had a better offer as a coach. I believe it was Bluefield is the college that signed him, Ray Kemp as a coach.